Okay. So in some of the reading about this, it sounds like the Lakers could send Duren to Detroit. Or sorry, Duren could sign and trade. The Lakers could send draft picks to Detroit for Duren. And multiple first-round draft picks. And there might be some other cap considerations that need to get moved around. But what would Detroit want with future draft picks? This is where it gets really interesting. Because they could try to take those draft picks and go trade for Trey Murphy. They could try and take those draft picks and go trade for Lauri Markkanen. They could try and take those draft picks and go try and trade for Jaylen Brown. They could take those draft picks and go try and trade for Michael Porter Jr. They could take those draft picks and spin them into the player that everybody wants them to trade for, and that is typically a shooter, a scorer. And, you know, it was really interesting today listening to the reporting on Get Up. Tim McMahon said the Celtics aren't getting the 4 first-round offers. They want 4 first-rounders. They want to start there. And they said what's really weird about the Celtics shopping Jaylen Brown is everybody knows that Jaylen Brown's on the market. And they're not getting any calls. They're calling teams to gauge their interest. And if you're making the phone call, you're probably not getting what you want.
Right.
If a team's calling you, that's a little different. Celtics have called around, and according to Tim McMahon on ESPN, basically the analytics front office people don't like Jaylen Brown's game. So they might have to lower their asking price if they're hell-bent on moving on from Jaylen Brown. Now, they might also now reconsider, well, maybe we need to make good with Jaylen Brown and mend fences there. But I don't know if it's clearly been reported what Trey Murphy costs. There have been rumors out there that they were looking for 3 first-round picks. Well, if you go out and grab a couple of first-round picks from the Lakers and assign and trade with Jalen Duren and package with one of yours, send the 3 first-round picks to New Orleans and get Trey Murphy, who they could fit under the cap. And I think they could still do more if they got Trey Murphy because he doesn't have an exorbitant contract. So I don't know what Trajan's up to here, but he's up to something. We will see if they renounce the rights, if they waive Duncan Robinson. We will see if they don't bring back Tobias Harris. Those things are being reported, but I'm not so sure I necessarily 100% believe them until I see them because I just feel like, or you know the other thing Trajan could be doing? He could be war chesting for a massive trade deadline deal. Take a team into the regular season, see how it's going, and then try and make a move at the trade deadline?
You can. I mean, there's all types of things you can do. And when you're talking about getting picks in return and, you know, you end up being multiple picks and then you could always move up in a draft situation because you've got those. But, you know, it's interesting you bring up Duncan Robinson when they renounce his rights, or is Duncan Robinson part of another trade? You know, when they re-signed Kevin Huerter yesterday to a 3-year, $27 million deal, it's very reasonable. Now, we didn't see much out of Kevin Huerter, and in fairness to him, he was hurt and was hurt in the playoffs and hardly played. But down the stretch when he wasn't hurt, he actually looked like a nice piece off the bench, and that's all he is. He's not a starting guy anymore, but he's a piece off the bench, and he's a guy that they really trusted because of his basketball IQ. In a way, he was like a non-vagabond version of Schroeder. You know, it was a guy you trusted in certain situations because he's a veteran, knows how to do things you're supposed to do, makes the right pass, can play some defense, and can shoot when you need him to do. And Huerter does a lot of that. In the shooting end is supposed to be much higher end than what we saw last year, not only as a Piston, but just as a player in general in Chicago. He didn't have a good year last year. But his track record suggests that when healthy, he's a really good shooter. So signing him to that deal may be a big nothing burger to a lot of people, but it's only $9 million a season on average, and it's a guy that you can count on to shoot off the bench, you hope, because he's going to be healthy. So does he effectively, because Isaiah Joe also signed, does that push Duncan Robinson out? Is it, like you said, they just renounce his rights, or do they try to make a trade? Because I think Duncan Robinson still has value in the league. So can they make something happen there? There's a lot of moves the Pistons can make. You mentioned all these players, you know, that we're talking about in trade, whether it's Jaylen Brown or Michael Porter Jr., Trey Murphy, some of the other names are going away.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James.
Kawhi
These
Leonard's
are names
apparently going to Toronto. LeBron, if he does opt for free agency, everybody thinks he's going to Golden State now.
Yeah, so there's players that were hot and bothered by last week when we were up at Shanty Creek. Now it is Tuesday and not so much, but that doesn't mean there aren't players they're available or could be available to help the Detroit Pistons become a better team next year.
Well, let me just state this: there's no way that Trajan doesn't have a plan.
There's
no way, and so I'm trying to figure out what he's up to. And people out there, we're spitballing ideas. What do you think he is up to? What do you think he's up to? If he gave a team-friendly offer to Duren, if the reports are true that Doug Robinson and Tobias Harris aren't coming back, which we'll see if they're true, that would mean 3 people from your starting lineup are gone? And how many starters have they added? None so far, right? Have they added 1 starter?
I mean, Isaiah Joe could be a starter ahead of Duncan Robinson.
He could. But
to me, it's clearly Langdon's. What he's doing is creating flexibility to do something. You know what I mean? The Isaiah Stewart, as much as you guys love, and I love the Isaiah Joe trade because it was like, oh my God, only 2 second rounders.
Yep.
The Grizzlies was like, oh my God, all we gave up was future second rounders for Isaiah Stewart. And this happens both ways when teams are just trying to alleviate contracts and move players to get flexibility,
There's
right?
truth to that.
So the Pistons moved Isaiah Stewart to get flexibility. They got a good player. The Thunder moved Isaiah Joe because they didn't want his contract anymore, and the Pistons get a great player because of it. This is all setting up for something. I agree with you, Doug. I think Trajan Langdon has targets this offseason, clearly, and he's going out and trying to get those targets. One might have been Austin Reeves. Now it's on to the next because Austin Reeves goes back to the Lakers, right? So I think he doesn't want to sign Duren to a big deal for a couple reasons. One, he probably doesn't think he's worth that much. 2, it keeps him under a number that he wants to be comfortable at so he can go get somebody who he thinks is worth it. Now, is that Trey Murphy? Is that Norman Powell? Is that Tyler Hero? I'm not sure. Did they want to be in the Kawhi sweepstakes, even if Kawhi doesn't want to come here? But I think Trajan's leaving himself a lot of options here because he knows he's got to get this team better with somebody alongside Cade.
I would say that there is, I would think that's true, but I would have to think there's a plan. Like a plan. What is plan 1A? Not plan 1B. What is plan 1A here?
Plan 1A might be bring back Duren and add somebody else.
I think that's plan 1A. Is they're gonna match an offer for whatever Jalen Duren gets. Is Sacramento signs with an offer sheet? Oh, Pistons, okay. The Lakers do it. Pistons, okay. We got this. Jalen Duren's coming back, and those teams are going to have to pivot.
And we'll get into some of the ramifications of that in a minute. Let's get the callers. Another Friends reference.
Well, you went with Yemen.
Al in Birmingham. Hi, Al.
Good morning. How are you?
What's up?
I have no clarification for anything except the question, which is, you got rid of Stewart already, so there goes one of your bigs. Now you're talking about Duren. Who the hell's going to play number 5?
Well, they've got Paul Reed, who obviously played very well for the Pistons down the stretch, and in the playoffs, Paul Reed was very good. But I don't know if you envision Paul Reed to be your number 1 center, but he's definitely going to get elevated minutes, and that was just widely known because of the Stewart trade. So does he even get more? Does he become a starter, or do they go out and look at, is it Walker Kessler?
Walker Kessler feels like a guy they would have.
He's a center out of Utah.
Played at Auburn.
7'2", big guy, averaged 14 points and 11 rebounds last season, and he's only 24 years old. So is that where the focus pivots? Because I think that's where it's going to pivot for the Lakers in Sacramento. If they're not going to get their guy in Duren, then they'll look to Kessler.
Al, so it's a very valid question. If they move on from Duren and Tobias and Duncan, that's 3 starters off of last year's team. Gone.
Yeah, and Stewart, your number 1 guy off the bench.
And really no other starters brought in. Isaiah Joe could. There are other guys I guess you could make Ron Holland a starter, but that's starting to feel like a depleted team, not a better team, and they would have a lot of moves yet to be made, it feels like. And big ones.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, you still need somebody who can handle the ball and score from the paint. And, there's not that many of them out there in the market.
No,
and they retain. I mean, look, this is by no means is it meant to say, oh, here's your solution. But they did retain the rights for Tolu Smith and Danius Jenkins are both brought on. they've got their offers. So those guys are coming back. Take that for what it's worth, which may not be much, but Tolu Smith is a big guy, in the build of a Isaiah Stewart type, but taller.
248-539-9797. Dave out of Cell is next. Hi, Dave.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Just two quick questions about Duran. Number one, does he not realize how taxes work? If he signs out in California, doesn't he lose a bunch of money? I feel like that's the whole reason that he keeps shopping himself. And then number two, how come he doesn't believe enough in himself to sign a 1-year deal to where he becomes unrestricted, and then his number could go drastically up?
Because he might be pissed. He might be pissed.
Well, yeah. I mean, pissed, yeah, but money talks. So
I know if the Pistons offer is say $30 million, and he could get 44, that's money talking. Now the Pistons could match it. They could match it. He can't do a sign and trade for more than the maximum another team could offer him.
Right.
But in the case of he just might be pissed. He might be mad about the offer and wants to go somewhere else.
Well, I feel like we've seen players get pissed and still just, bite the bullet for the 1 year. Didn't Danny Dimes do that with the Giants? Bet on himself for a year and then he got paid.
Yeah, it happens. It does happen in sports, but you can understand why a player wants security. Like he's saying, why doesn't he just do the 1 year deal? Well, because a 1 year deal is for the total amount of money could be $140 million less than what you could sign for now over the course of the contract.
Bird in the hand.
Well, and then there's also a little bit of, does he want to have to go prove himself?
No, he doesn't, because he just did it. He's not. He just made the All NBA third team. You know how hard that is to make. And why would he do another? I got to prove it year deal. I just did it.
I mean,
I want
he's
my
cashing
money.
in.
Yeah,
and he should cash in. You're 22 years old. You're about to cash in on, and by the way, it's only a 4 or a 5 year deal depending which team you go to, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time you're done with this is your prove it deal. Is you're getting $77 million over the next 4 years to prove it.
Yeah, Danny Dimes had to literally prove it. Jalen Duren just did in his mind, right?
Then you're 26, going to be 27 years old. Literally, that's your money cannon contract could be the next one. This one's a huge contract. Take it and run and prove yourself over the next 4 years.
248-539-9797. More of your phone calls and feedback coming up. It's Karsch and Anderson, 97.1.